Hello my fellow YouTubers, welcome back to another review. Today I'm going to be talking about a film out of the UK. This is the latest zombie film to come out. It just came out 2 months ago at the beginning of October. This one's called The Dead. This is written, directed, and produced by the Ford brothers. I'm not sure exactly of their first names. It was two brothers that did the whole thing. And what this tells is a story about an American Air Force engineer lieutenant named Brian Murphy, who is on this plane of American soldiers that are fleeing Africa. There's been a zombie outbreak that's happened, so they're hightailing it out of the country. Well, they had to leave in a flurry, and they didn't get well prepared, and the plane ends up going down because of that. And Brian ends up being the only one to survive out of the group. Well, in the meantime, we see Sergeant Daniel Denbley, which is an African sergeant. He goes to his village after all this shit starts happening, and his entire village is wiped out. His family's been killed, but he knows his son is still alive. His son is in northern Africa. So then we cut back to Brian. Brian just wants to get to his family back in America, but what he needs to do is he needs to get to northern Africa to the Air Force base so he can get home. One thing leads to another, and their fates cross paths, and they end up teaming up to help one another out to get home to their families. That's the basic setup and premise of The Dead. When they run into each other, they don't trust each other at all. Daniel thinks that this is just another American. He's not gonna care about us. They're just gonna leave like he did, like everybody else did. And Brian's just real apprehensive of Daniel too. So they don't trust each other, but they come to a mutual respect to help one another out, and it works. Guys, the zombie films, they're a dime a dozen nowadays, especially when it comes to low budget films. This is a lower budgeted film, but low budget films to no budget films, zombie films are everywhere. It's a literal epidemic because they're so easy to make. And, you could just steal a premise from anything and make a zombie film. But that's also the problem, is basically everything that can be possibly done has been done with a zombie film. You can't. It's really hard to come up with something really unique nowadays because so many has been done. Now, the Ford brothers with The Dead, they are not reinventing the wheel by any means, but they're definitely bringing some elements to the table in this film that make this a unique zombie experience. One of them being, I would say that as high as 80% of this film takes place during the daylight. Now, most zombie films are at night, almost always. This one is in the baking sun. And second, it takes place in Africa. This was genuinely shot on location in Africa. That's another new aspect to this film. And thirdly, instead of being trapped in a house, in a mall, in a barn, whatever, like always happens in zombie films, barricading themselves in and fight to survive, they are on the run. This is basically a road zombie film where they're constantly moving. They're trying to get to their families in the north. So that's three aspects that really make this film different, and it brings something new to the table. This does have a strong story. I really thought that the characters were really awesome in this. They're very good character relations between the two. Between Brian and between Daniel. I thought that the tension is always there between them. Even when they go through certain things and come to know each other, there's still always that apprehension of each other, and it works. I thought it really works well. This is played very serious, a zombie film. They're not, there isn't anything funny in this. They don't poke fun at the zombies. There's no comical moments whatsoever, and the zombies are also, traditional, slow-walking, Romero-esque type zombies. I really like that, because it's, I think too often nowadays, there's zombie comedies just everywhere. It's easy to do, it's when you've seen them so much, it reaches a point where it becomes comical. But it's nice to see a film that goes back to taking it completely serious, and not only does that, but it works too. Because it can easily not work in that situation because of seeing it so much, the market being oversaturated. But this film does work. And I really like that the Ford brothers, you know, with this being filmed in Africa, they really let you take in the vastness of Africa, and you know, not only in showing, you know, big, huge landscapes of just nothing but land, you know, but also there are moments between the characters, Brian and Daniel, where they're traveling and they're not really saying much. You know, they're kind of contemplating, you know, what they're doing, what they're going through. You know, there's moments where they're just thinking and they're not saying much, and what that does for you, the viewer, is it helps you to be able to take in the vastness of the situation, the desolation of the situation, because it's not like, you know, they're in a town or, you know, a couple blocks over, you know, they might find a band of survivors or whatever to get together with. No, you know, these guys, they come up over a hillside and all they see is just barren open land for as far as you can see. And if they do see anybody, it's just zombies, roaming zombies. And there are plenty of roaming zombies in this, despite all of, you know, the desolation. But it's to the point where it's believable too. It's not like there's big, huge hordes that they run into and shit. It's sparse here and there, but it's always where you could see it happening, and then situations that they run into where they do get stopped, you know, and they're stopped for a period of time. You know, they're always looking out, and the zombies, you know, they hear the things and they come to them. So there are times where they come together, but it still makes sense despite how wide open everything is. I thought the acting worked for the most part. You know, it's mainly Daniel and Brian in this film. Now, Daniel was played by Prince David Osei, and Brian is played by Rob Freeman. David Osei is really awesome. I guess this is his first international film. I believe it's his first film out of Africa he's ever done. And he does really, really good in his part. Very believable. And Rob Freeman, which is he's the lead actor, he's good, but he definitely has moments where they could have done a little bit more with his acting. Like some of the tense moments, like between him and the character of Daniel, like when they're arguing. You know, there's just moments where it's like, oh man, you know, they should have done another take on that. You know, and I know that they were pushed on getting this done, so maybe they didn't have, you know, the time to do another take or the resources or whatever, but sometimes it shows. There's certain moments where Rob was just a little bit weak in this, and the film, it would have elevated the film if those moments would have been a little bit better. Now, with that said, it's nothing that's going to turn anybody off. I don't see anybody, you know, not liking this film because of his performance. It's not bad. It's just certain moments are uneven. But with that said, there's other times where he works very well. You know, and like I said, their characters are very good together, you know, in what they do and the stuff they come on to. But the story's smart too. You know, it's like if you think of characters that's out in this wide open area, you know, when you take time, eventually you have to rest. Well, how are you going to do that? You know, of course they got this truck that they're traveling. You can't exactly sleep in the truck. There's times where they don't have that. You know, what do you do? Where do you rest at in this wide open land? And you know, that's kind of addressed in this. There's situations that they come into that it's like, okay, you know, I could see myself trying something like that, you know, if I was stuck in their situation. So it's smart written film, and you know, the gore effects in this, guys, are really fucking good. Like, as far as I could tell, everything in this was practical. I don't believe there was any moments of CGI whatsoever. If there was, it was covered up or just done exceptionally well where you couldn't really tell. And you know, with that said, there's a few moments in this where I was like, wow, you know, that looked really awesome. I mean, some of these effects that they pulled off, if it was completely practical, I'm really surprised because it looked very good. You know, like another thing with films being in the dark, you know, it's easy to cover up things, you know, but some of the most shocking scenes in this with effects and gore effects and stuff happen during the day, and you're just like, wow, you know, it's pretty fucking awesome. Very good effects, believable. I'm not sure exactly who did the effects, but, you know, A+, because they definitely did awesome. Now, it isn't filled with gore. You know, you'll go stretches of the film where you don't see anything like that for a while, but when it happens, it really hits you hard. It's a smack in the face, you know, and it'll hit hard at times. And it really works. So guys, I give The Dead an 8 out of 10. You know, I would actually rate this a little bit higher if Rob Freeman would have been just a little bit better. But you know, I highly recommend this film, checking it out. You know, I'm a sucker for the zombie film, so of course I was drawn to this, but it's just a good film regardless. It's not like just zombie aficionados are going to like this film. I think, honestly, guys, this is one of the best serious zombie films to come along in quite some time. I mean, it's that good. I really hope that this film gets a Region 1 release, because I think there's a lot of fans here in the States that would really enjoy this film. Not reinventing the wheel again, you know, but enough new stuff brought to the table to where it's like, okay, this is good. This can sit on my shelf among some of my best zombie films. I really regard it that high. And so yeah, guys, like I said, right now, as far as I know, all you can get this through is through Amazon UK. But it's cheap. I think I paid like $8 American for it. So if you have an all-region player, definitely pick it up. It's worth the blind buy. So yeah, guys, 8 out of 10 for this one. That is The Dead, and hopefully you guys will check it out. Hopefully you'll like it as much as I did. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. Later.